JD Vance had a pretty good debate, but it wasn't perfect, and it wasn't without its moments that made him and perhaps the broader ticket look pretty bad. And of course, there I'm talking about his unwillingness to admit the obvious, which is that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Now, the issue is that's gonna kind of come up again every once in a while because it looked so bad. So it's been a little bit since the debate. Has he come up with maybe a more nuanced way to avoid having to answer the question? No, he's kind of just gonna double down on dodging. Take a look.
Why didn't you answer the question last night during the debate about who won the 2020 presidential election?
Well, look, here's the simple reason. The media is obsessed with talking about the election of 4 years ago. I'm focused on the election of 33 days from now because I want to throw Kamala Harris out of office.
Yeah, that's not great either, buddy. I know that like the people behind him are like, yeah, that's amazing. Every one of those people thinks incorrectly that Donald Trump won the election because Donald Trump and people like JD Vance have lied to them for years. And I think that's incredibly disrespectful. And I hate that they knowingly lied to you. They have no respect for you whatsoever. So I feel terrible that you've ended up in that position. But what the hell is that even supposed to mean? The media is obsessed about it. You avoided answering a question. They just want you to answer it. That's not obsession. That's like the bare minimum of what journalists are supposed to do. And when you say again, I'm not focused on that, I'm focused on 30 days. What are you talking about focused? Answer the question. I'm not asking for you to make it your new hobby. I'm asking for you to answer the question. It's not even like you're saving time. It's taking you longer now because you have to keep avoiding answering the question than it would if you just said, obviously, Joe Biden won in 2020. You know it, I know it, every sane, rational person knows it, but instead he thinks he's winning here, okay? He thinks that this is better, and it is better from the point of view of Donald Trump and the people in that audience, but they're already voting for Donald Trump. He keeps refusing to answer, which means the media is gonna keep asking, and it's gonna make them look worse to sane people, some of whom are independents and haven't yet decided who they want to vote for. And so we're gonna get to a right winger who seems to understand all of this in a sec, but Adrienne, what do you make?
I think it's pretty rich for JD Vance to always try to pivot to blame the media, especially when he has been in the media consistently and just excessively since he was named VP. I think he's had over 150 media appearances, far more than anyone else in terms of VP or presidential nominees. And the thing is, he is trying to curry media favor. And unfortunately, all he's been able to curry is continued dislike for his behavior. At the same time, just his refusal to answer a basic question about whether the election is stolen, it really, it wasn't redeeming at all. And I think the party is recognizing that he has lost a lot for Trump, not as much as he should have been giving as a VP nominee.
Yeah, like imagine somebody asked you, what color is the sky? And you're like, I'm not focused on the color of the sky, I'm focused on the color of the future. You sound like a crazy person. And then like, if somebody asks you again and you're like, why are you so obsessed with the color of the sky? Just answer the question. You creepy little weirdo, just answer the question. Now I wanna turn to Ben Shapiro, who seems willing to admit what Vance is not willing to admit, but there's still an issue here, which we'll discuss.
One issue where I think that Tim Walz may have scored some points, particularly late in the debate, was on the issue of January 6th. One of the problems that JD Vance has to shoulder when it comes to debate situations like this is because the person who is his running mate has said over and over and over that he did not lose in 2020. JD, who I think knows that Donald Trump lost in 2020, is forced to not just say the obvious thing. The obvious thing is, yes, Donald Trump legally lost. By the laws of the United States, he lost, which is why he left office. I can have questions about it. Those questions became irrelevant the minute that Donald Trump lost the election. The state votes were certified by Congress in a legal process, and then he left. Right? But because Donald Trump doesn't want to hear that from JD Vance, JD is forced into the bizarre position of having to misdirect.
Okay, so most of that is true. I mean, most of that is how I would describe the position that Vance is in. He's the running mate for a massive liar, so he has to be a liar, because if he points out that the massive liar is lying, the massive liar is not gonna like that. That's how massive liars typically work. There's still a couple of issues with what Ben Shapiro said there. First of all, he threw out a couple little nuggets of like, well, I have questions. Maybe it was stolen. Don't stop watching me, please, audience. So there's a little bit of that. The bigger issue, though, is so you know that Donald Trump, you accept that Donald Trump is lying about this because you say that Donald Trump lost. And you know that his running mate, who knows the truth, now has to lie about the results of the election. And you're describing that. You don't seem to care. I think that's something you should probably care about. I think that it's bad when a candidate, like this isn't lying about, what's the best kind of hot pocket or whatever. And I think that we all know the truth in that. No, this is lying about the results of an election to justify trying to steal it. And he's right now lying ahead of time about this one to potentially justify trying to steal it. I feel like that's something that you should have some thoughts about and not just describe it as like, oh yeah, no, they lie so they can steal elections or whatever. Like that seems kind of significant to me, Adrienne. What do you think?
I think that that's very significant, and also it's very telling because, as we know, Donald Trump hasn't and at all admitted that he will go ahead and concede if things don't work out for him in November. So it's just that reinforcement of the fact this man doesn't plan to in any way adhere to a democratic system, and we should be very afraid.
Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.